Hi, welcome back to my channel. If you're just joining me for the first time, my name is Elisa and this is Fusion DIY. Today I'm going to be working on this board and I'm actually going to be making a sign out of it. And this board actually has been sitting in my garage for more years than I want to admit to. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to clean it and just wipe it down, get rid of some of the dust and the cobwebs on it. And then I am going to paint it and I'll show you how I pretty it up with the stencil, so don't go away. Okay, so I have wiped down the board and it was very, very dirty, and I hope that none of you are disappointed that you didn't get to see me actually wipe down the board, but it took a couple of wipes to really get it clean. The history with this board is that I purchased it about, I want to say maybe 8 years ago in a yard sale, and I think it was actually sitting in somebody's barn when I purchased it. And here comes my cat Dixie. She's quite the curious little cat. And so I bought it and it sat in my garage for years, and last fall, as I was cleaning out the garage, I finally took it and I said, I'm going to do something with this. So I brought it down in the basement and was kind of thinking about what to do with it. So here we are. So I am going to give this a rough paint. I'm not actually going to paint it entirely because I really want it to look very worn. So all I'm really going to do is just do a very dry brush on here so that it looks as though it's a worn board. Okay, guys, so what I did was, you could see earlier in the video there was just too much paint on this board. So what I did was I just got a little bit of water and I'm going to dip my brush in the water and I'm going to move the paint around so that I can spread it out so that the board looks more weathered and not so well painted. Okay, so see, like that is really too much. That's too much paint. So I'm just going to dip my brush in the water, spread it around, and thin it down a little bit so that it looks more weathered than newly painted. I will tell you that this board obviously has been around for a while. It is it looks like it might have been maybe a sign at some point because it's got nail holes here. It looks like it might have been screwed into something. I don't know if it was a tabletop or what it was, but it is heavy and it's beautiful wood. It looks like it might be oak, and so I'm hoping that once I get it finished, I'll be able to put it in my booth this coming weekend. So that is pretty much all I'm going to do to it as far as giving it a coat of paint. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for the paint to dry, and then I'm going to show you how I stencil on this board, and wait till you see it. You're just going to love it, so don't go away. Okay, so what I've done is I've turned the board around so that you can actually see what I'm doing here, and I got this wonderful stencil online, and it says farm to table, farmers market, dairy, produce, dry goods. It's a really nice stencil, and I've been looking for an opportunity to use it, and I thought that this would be perfect. So now I could do it all in black, but I really don't want it to be that stark dark. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of white, and there goes my cat Ryan, my little buddy. And you don't need a whole lot of paint when you're stenciling. So I'm just going to be really careful just to not use too much paint because I don't want to waste it. And then I'm just going to take a dash of black. Ooh, that's probably too much. And I'm going to mix them, and then I'm going to start I'm looking for like a dark gray. So something that's not black, but you know, because I think against this it will be too stark. So this looks like it might work. So I'll show you now what I've come up with. And I may need to go over it again, you know, with a little bit darker paint. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I think I'm gonna put just a little more black in there. Make it a little bit darker. Actually, I probably could just take some of this. The paint that I'm using is actually the Walmart paint, the Color Place. It's the black onyx. And this is really good paint, you know, for doing this type of work. It's certainly more economical than buying the little jars, the little bottles of craft paint. All right, so I'm going to try this and I'm going to see how this looks. If I need to, I can always go back over it. All right, so put that over to the side so that I actually had to put my sponge, my stencil sponge, in my pocket because I have a cat that likes to steal things. And so this is a stencil sponge. All that I've really done, this is actually a piece of foam rubber that leftover pieces of foam rubber that I used in a prior project, and I didn't want to throw the foam rubber away, so I cut it up into little pieces to use as I stencil. So what I'm doing is just putting a little bit on the sponge, and I am going to offload the majority of it. Now, normally what I would do is I would tape down the stencil, but because this is so large, I don't think that I'm going to need to do that. So all I'm going to do then is just start to pounce. Some people like pouncing, some people like swirling. It really, you know, I've done it both ways, and it really doesn't matter to me. For the bigger spots, the larger letters, I may just swirl, but for these little ones, I'll pounce. Okay, so actually I'm going to let you see that, and I feel like it's just too close of a match to the paint. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, I think, add a little bit more black, and I'm going to go with the straight black. I can always go over it and sand it down a little bit. Ooh, that's way too much paint. But this is the reason why I like using this paint, because it's very economical, and when stuff like this happens, you know, it's really not a hardship. You know, it's not going to be a financial hardship for that. So we're going to go with the black then, and like I said, I'll sand it down so that it doesn't look so pristine, I guess is a good word. And we'll see how the black turns out. I wasn't sure. It was a try. Okay, let's see how we did. Wow, that looks amazing. All right, so here it is. Let me pull this back a little bit so you guys can see it. Can you see that? There you go. It turned out really nice. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for the paint to dry, and then I'm going to distress it a little bit, and I'll show you the finished product. Okay, so I've let the paint dry, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a very old piece of sandpaper, and I'm going to sand down the letters a little bit so that they don't look so pristine, because I want this to have an aged look about it. So I'm very lightly sanding this so it looks like it's weathered. Okay, now I'm going to take a lint-free cloth and I'm going to wipe all this down. And now the only thing left to do is to put some hanging hardware on the back, and then I'm going to polyurethane it, and then I'll show you the finished product. Once again, thanks for joining me today. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a like, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and hit the notification bell so that every time I release another video, you will be notified. I appreciate you joining me today. Thank you so much. Have an awesome week, and God bless. Bye.